Hello and welcome to One Wheel Drive. Now when the folks from the Sunshine Coast invited us to come and do a motorcycle tour for a feature, we had to think about it a little bit. How were we going to make it interesting? How were we going to ensure that we weren't following an endless ribbon of brake lights up the Sunshine Coast? And then it dawned on us. We'd ditch the roads and do it as an adventure. But first, we were going to need some bikes. And they're not things of beauty. Now, unlike most of our adventures, we're not doing it on shiny new loaner bikes. Those weren't available. So rather than being whiny little journalists, we've ponied up and bought our own. And here they are, the KTM 640 Adventure. Generally favored by madmen and desert racers, which so often are the same. And that's been a bit of a mixed bag, really. Because they're in varying states of repair and in need of a little TLC.
This is the KTM tool that's not included in the kit.
No, the only tool you really need in the KTM kit is liquor.
It's possibly the world's most complicated oil change. It requires a priming pump and a funnel and 2 filters.
Best method overall. No dripping, no burping. Strangely craving a Greek salad about now.
How many hours in are we? And as the repairs wore on, things got a little punchy.
Going out as a 640 adventure for the next Halloween. Get me out of this thing.
You'll just have to vibrate yourself free like a true 640 adventure.
Amateur.
But eventually the oil changes were done, the bike's tuned, and ready to go. It's a Chef Feeney-inspired BC Ferries breakfast. I'm sure of it. Oh dear God, where's Gordon Ramsay when you need him?
What the bleep do you think that bleeping thing looks like?
Like most people on the ferry, our first stop was Gibsons for necessary supplies. Should have waited for that rather than eating on BC Ferries. And now that we were properly fueled, it was time to press on. So, to Sechelt, the other way.
I'm really looking forward to this. It's going to be a little bit bumpy, but hopefully we'll stay together.
And in the middle of nowhere, modern conveniences.
Well, originally the map didn't show these roads connecting, and we were supposed to drop back to the 101 way back at Roberts Creek. But it's good for us. They actually did connect, and we got a much longer, much better run out of it.
Someone attacked the shrubberies.
Yeah, well, that was just going too fast around the corner. Apparently my speedometer is about 20 kilometers out. I thought I was going 70, but Kevin said I was actually going about 90.
But while Glenn was being rough on the local fauna, my bike attempted to eat the local flora, which was a bit uncomfortable when we arrived for dinner at Ruby Lake Resort and Bird Sanctuary. Made even more so when our hosts failed to realize we aren't no reservations. So they opened up the restaurant just for us. How amazingly uncomfortable is that? Luckily, Aldo makes it clear that this is a family affair. Including the extended members, who luckily are still a little on the small side.
J'ai l'attitude de l'altitude.
So I like in my restaurant teaching people like to eat more like naturally and fresh. You make a big difference because you can do stuff with frozen, you know.
One of the things I enjoyed most about Italy was just how incredibly fresh the food was, and you just don't get that much in North America.
Well, apparently we found a little piece of Italy.
I am so tempted just to take a shitload of antihistamines right now. It's not funny. Yes, it's seldom that I suffer shellfish envy.
Be quiet and eat your salad.
I'm getting to eat crustaceans by proxy today.
Come to me, my pretty. Come into my stomach. One of my last restaurant jobs was to prepare the shellfish, and I really didn't enjoy the product. In the end, I couldn't really eat them. I couldn't taste them. I really didn't enjoy it, and I haven't been able to eat them since till tonight. And this really is an eye-opening experience. It is so fresh, so spectacular. It's really undone all the damage.
Luckily for me, it's not all about things that wear their skeleton on the outside.
Wild buffalo, some wild kangaroo from Australia. It's got some Kimboletus porcini, the Italian mushroom, and some wild boar from Alberta.
Skippy the bush kangaroo
Holy kangaroo down there.
is delicious.
Elle rougit.
Yes, we need flavor vision. Lick the screen. Lick the screen. Dinner sorted, it was time to rough it at the bivouac overnight. For those of us who consider camping a hotel without room service, that's all about to change. Radiant floor heating in your tent. BC Ferries, cruising the straits.
Un soir de jour de lune, j'écrase mon cœur sur la tribune. J'ai l'attitude de l'altitude. J'oublie mon sol, ma solitude. Statue enveloppée d'un voile, grand rue parsemée d'étoiles. Le ciel est son temple.
Well, I'm liking any soup that comes with its own beer.
Although this is a pint for a hobbit.
Cheers! Wee person. And the rest of the meal at Manzanita was as successful.
Fact. When you're on an adventure ride, there's no such thing as packing too much. Bring it all. You can always start throwing stuff out along the way.
And we've also learned a few other things en route, mostly about the KTM 640 adventure. Yes, it is as capable on-road as off. But there are prices to pay. I think KTM 640 adventure owners are wont to say amusing things like, "At least your teeth tickle as they vibrate out of your skull." And, "Isn't it funny how your hands keep tingling an hour and a half after the ride?" So not my first choice in a highway bike. And we've also experienced a few reliability issues. This KTM repair spot brought to you by BC Ferries.
Over this side.
I was just going to squish it up a bit just so it doesn't pull back through.
There's also a service schedule to match that of any dirt bike, which means you're not going on a long trip without the knowledge of how to do your valves or your toolkit. So, in the end, only one of us has ridden off into the sunset on a KTM 640 adventure. And for Glenn and I, the ownership experience has been shorter lived.